There's nothing like having a child to remind you and just how beautiful life and innocent life can be.
Okay, so what's really interesting to me about this record is that you do speak of a lot of struggle in it. It's like it gives a sense of like feeling lost, of living through all of these tough experiences, but still like at the very core, it has a very positive messaging to it. I mean, it's Tell Them It's Sunny. It's either way, it's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
And I think that's a sentiment that's getting pretty rare these days, with everything that's happening in the world. Where do you get that outlook?
Acceptance is key, I think, in any transformation. And it's something I've had to learn the hard way, you know? I'm someone who struggles a lot with many things, life. And I've found that having faith in what is written ends up being the path of least resistance. Ultimately, there are very, very few things we have control over as human beings. And yeah, like I said, in hopes of any sort of transformation, I think first there needs to be acceptance. And Tell Them It's Sunny, you know, at first was kind of like a defiant statement, like actually, no matter how much shit can be thrust upon me or us, actually it's sunny, you know what I'm saying? I think it kind of is like commenting on that constant juxtaposition in life, you know? The dark and the light.
But then in terms of accepting what is supposed to happen anyway, how does that tie into all of the resistance that is happening as well? Like obviously there's a lot of very bad things happening to a lot of people right now, but they're fighting back.
Mm-hmm.
How does that tie in to that concept of acceptance?
It's very confusing. It's a very confusing time, you know? And that's what I mean, like when I first came up with the Tell Them It's Sunny, it was almost like a defiant, like a kind of almost like taking a piss, you know, like, because it's anything but sunny, right? It's like really dark times. And then as the album began to develop, at the end of the album, I was like, actually, you know what? The sunshine is inside. And that cannot be dampened or taken away. It's all about perspective and outlook. And these people are around the world struggling and fighting for their right to life are some of the strongest and graceful humans we're being like presented with, you know what I mean?
I think I do. Is that what you go into on the song Glory?
Yes.
Because like, yeah, I mean, it almost feels like you're building a sort of utopia on there that fundamentally drives on this sense that every person in the end really just wants the same, just wants to be left alone and to do their own thing.
And to exist peacefully.
Yeah.
Yeah. Glory is me like transposing myself into a place where I think could be possible for us as a human race, you know? And tell them it's sunny in your glory, you know, in the glory of God, the universe, however you want to call it, in the glory of just love. Like, it's really hard to articulate things that you understand as like, to be like fundamental, you know, to put them into words. It kind of gets lost in translation, but yeah, Glory is probably the most, like, is the song on the album where I'm looking out rather than looking in.
It really feels like it. Like, I mean, Glory was one of the songs that really stuck out to me, especially when I first listened to the album. And then listening on, I listened to The End for the first time, which is sort of, it feels like the counterpart to Glory, right? Because it's a lot darker. It feels like a bit more of a realistic outlook. Like, we don't know what's about to happen. We can do our best to sort of steer this in the right direction, but in the end it's like we're hoping, we're praying, the end has been on its way.
Yeah, The end has been on its way. It's almost like, in a sense, like giving up, trying to have power over anything. Because I think, me personally, I am like constantly between the idea that like I have purpose and I have a role in, you know, in whatever this shit is. And then on the other hand, I'm like, I'm so insignificant and this is all just happening to me. And I think my whole life I've struggled with those two poles. It's like, on one hand, I'm the master of my reality and like, I create my own world. And then on the other hand, I can feel so burdened and weighed down and helpless by the way things are in the world, you know, and I've constantly, my whole life, struggled between those two fleeting and like quite stark outlooks. And I think a lot of my art is made in the chaos of those two, within the chaos of those two poles.
So what do you like to hold on to?
I mean, first and foremost, my daughter. There's nothing like having a child to remind you and just how beautiful life and innocent life can be. But also the resilience of human spirit, you know. I just love people, like I'm a human person. I'm a people person. And as much dread and negativity as there is, I have to believe that there is also the opposite to counterbalance that. And I see it every day, you know what I mean? So I think hanging on to that, and I think that's why there's so much concentrated efforts against humans and such an attack on like human spirit to like really grind people down to the point where like we're vibrating so low because we're worried about like how we're gonna like put food on the table and how we're gonna make the next day, you know, because actually we are such powerful creatures, especially when we're unified in love and overstanding.
And I mean, you've mentioned your daughter and how she shapes your view on life and on humanity, and how does that show in your songwriting?
In my songwriting, it's hard to pinpoint. I mean, overall, the whole experience of, you know, becoming a mother, growing a child, giving birth to a child, has made me a lot more courageous in life, in the way I show up. I'm a lot more confident in what I bring to the table and a lot less bothered of how people perceive me, in a way. It gives you a certain power as a woman, I've found personally in my experience. I guess before I had my daughter, I would find it easier to sink into pits of darkness, whereas now I can't really afford to.
Got mouths to feed.
Not even physically, like literally can't afford to, but like I can't afford to let my mind go there anymore. I can't afford to let my spirit go there anymore. It's like I have to have hope. I've got to be strong, you know.
Because you can't let it affect her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't let it. Yeah. The pits of pessimism that I would wander before, I'm unable to venture to those places as much. It's just not an option. It's of no help, you know. So I guess in a way she's made me more positive, but also more like fierce, you know.
I think I get that.
It's trippy, and I think that maybe that's what comes across in the music. Maybe it's like, maybe not even literally in my songwriting, but my attitude towards music and the delivery. I'm just a lot more brave with it, I think.
That's really interesting. And I think we've come full circle as well right now, because the way we started out was the album is still having this sort of positive outlook. And I think we found it.
Yeah. So true. Always got to bring it back. Yeah, because there's so much dread circulating in the collective, and really how helpful can it be, you know what I mean? So it's like, obviously it's good to be aware of things, it's very good to be aware of things, but also there needs to be hope, you know, and there needs to be positivity, like there's enough things circulating that will be contributing to like lowering frequency. So it's like, it's not like I feel like I have a duty to like bring people up. It's not that. But I think even just on a personal level, I try to have that, always bring it back to something positive. Even if the only positive thing is a lesson. Do you know what I'm saying? Even if it's a hard lesson to swallow, even just that lesson in itself is positive, because God willing, you ain't gonna make the same mistake again.